It's going to be a little crazy. I want to talk to my people. I want to talk to my brothers and sisters. We can have grace and humility in how we interact with other people.
Oh, hot dog, look at you.
And nobody talked about what's really happening.
And let's have conversations about what truth is. So welcome back. I will, we have a great guest today. I'm gonna start by saying this before I do anything else. You know, you get to a point where you have your breaking points, and I'm unlike no one else. I think I'd probably say that I'm much more authentic than 99% of the people out there. I'll just tell you how it is. I don't actually care how you see me, where you see me, and what you think. I just don't care. I'm going to be who I am, whether I'm in Las Vegas or I'm hanging out with my wife. I'm the same person. Now, sometimes that's good. Sometimes that's bad. Sometimes you get to see all the raw that comes out of that. And so it's one of the things that I think has got me in trouble when I talk about putting people on the gallows. I built gallows from coast to coast. I went to Home Depot today and I bought some wood. I remember doing this with Max. And he's like, for what? Why are you doing it? And we talked about it before. He's like, Joe, you're going to get in trouble for this. And I was like, because we need to build gallows from coast to coast. You got to have a little bit of a sense of humor. Today's kind of a hard day. Whew. Today is the 8th anniversary of my brother being murdered. I want to thank the guy that came on there that basically tried to dishonor my brother. I blocked him because it's people like you that makes me realize that there's shit in the world, and that when you see shit, you should call it what it is, shit. But I lost my brother 8 years ago at 2:37 in the morning on August 7th, 2017. I put up a post about this, so you can see it on X and Facebook and everywhere else. I put it up there, but he was a better man than I think that I ever could be. He was a guy that could have a smile, would light up a room. He also would go from lighting up a room. I remember when me and my brothers got in a fight together. We had to fight a bunch of people. It was weird. And it was back to back. Like, he was the epitome of, I am my brother's keeper. He was an amazing uncle, an amazing father. And in the post I put up, I wrote about the fact that this year is heavier. And I think it's heavier because I now have more knowledge. There you go. Today marks 8 years. 8 years since my brother was murdered. Clint was one of the kindest men you'll ever find. He was the first one there and always the last to leave. He could light up a room with a smile and yet be ready to battle if a time arose. He lived by the saying, I am my brother's keeper. Yet this year is somehow different. I miss my brother more than I can say. Every time I sit on a toilet seat at my home, he put them all in. When I remodeled my house, I didn't actually remove those, but he put them all in. Weird, but nonetheless true. Or when I sit in the gazebo and just ponder what could have been. The injustice of what was done to my brother haunts me more today because I can see more clearly the rotted nature of the system and how it's designed to punish, steal, and destroy the lives of people in our community. As I continue to miss my brother, I remember that this was just another symbol of the institutional rot we face. Justice is an anomaly, not the norm. They free rapists and criminals and lock up good, hardworking people. They create a system that favors the weak-minded fools and punishes the strong. It is truly a system worth loathing. Yet there is hope. God clearly told us that this is a fallen world. I find solace in the fact that you cannot run away from the judgment of God. Rest in peace, little brother. George Floyd was a drug addict, 4 times the lethal limit in his system. And the cop that that kneeled on him, which is in the book, he could have been a great cop, he could have been a bad cop. It didn't matter to me. What mattered to me is that we walk by so many opportunities of people who are not, that the system has literally betrayed. Judges, what they did to Tina Peters is abhorrent. The fact that she's still in jail and that we debate the ridiculous and that someone hasn't reached out and choked out Polis and said, you let her out or you get not one more dollar. The fact that Tina's life is not that important and that she is the useful idiot that they get to use for their own means in order to say, take as much of the pound of flesh. They've already negotiated it. They're going to let them take as much pound of flesh they can off of Tina Peters until they say, okay, now I'll let them out. There's backdoor meetings and there's all sorts of other stuff that happens because they know more than what they tell us. They knew about JFK wasn't a one-man guy with a sight rifle that was able to shoot the way he shot from 200 yards away. They knew that wasn't true. And yet they sold it to the American people. They knew that COVID came from a bat lab. It didn't come from a bat. It came from a laboratory that was funded by gain of function by the United States. They knew that they were already working on vaccines that they were going to put into everyone like test dummies for COVID. They were working on that in 2018, 2019. It wasn't something that came up and said, oh yeah, we're going to inject this to you. They knew the benefits and they knew that this was going to be a problem, but they did it anyway. And they got 50% of the public to buy into it. And then you had people like Bush and Clinton and Obama that stood on a stage and said, everyone needs to go get their vaccine. And I venture to say that none of the 3 of them probably did. Why would they take something that's experimental? They are, after all, the elite. And it reminds me back to when the head of Pfizer was asked the question, did you take the vaccine? He said, no, I need to make sure everyone else takes it first. He was asked a year and a half later, did you take the vaccine? And he said, no, I have not. What is good for thee is not good for me. Because he knew the outcome of what that vaccine would do as it maimed and killed millions of Americans. They knew what remdesivir would do because they used it back when you had the problems with Ebola. Killed 100% of the people they gave that to. Yet that became the solution for COVID. And every time that somebody was put on a ventilator, 96% of the people put on ventilators died. 96%. When Dr. Corey came and testified before Congress and said, I have found a miracle drug, YouTube banned it. Facebook made it into horse paste, and the media ran with that narrative. For the last 5 years, and I want to address the fact that I just cut it off yesterday, because somebody said in the comments, Joe, everyone has suffered and sacrificed. Yeah, so you made a choice to sacrifice. And you could have gotten off the bus at any point. I made a choice to sacrifice knowing that I could never get off the bus. I knew that I was putting my family in jeopardy. Nobody came to your house and tried to kill your family. Nobody sent powder through the mail. You were not poisoned. You have not been defamed, and you have not been threatened every single day of the last 5 years. I have. You have not been sanctioned to the tune of over $200,000. I have. You have not had to stand up for people who, frankly, can't stand up for themselves and honor a commitment you made to say, I will not let them know who you are. And then carry whatever burden is put in front of you, regardless of it being financial, relational, reputational, financial, it doesn't matter. I carried that burden. So while I appreciate what everyone does to make a sacrifice, I'm pointing out the sacrifice that had to be made and the heaviness by which that sacrifice means to me when I see people jump off the boat and abandon what we started. That's my problem. You see, you let the left come up with this idea that everyone's out there grifting. You know, when you ask for help and you're out there in the front of the lines and you ask for help, now you become the grifter. Yeah, I was such a big grifter that I could have sold my company for $200 million, was doing great things. I was Entrepreneur of the Year. I had several awards, sat on nearly every board that I wanted to sit on, got to serve God, serve the community, help out men that just got out of prison. Yeah, I was the perfect person to go out there and try to grift for advertising revenue. That made me the perfect person for that. I mean, it makes perfect sense that I would do that. Why? Great. Fight for people that can't fight for themselves, that won't fight for themselves, that lock themselves in their best basement, give up their businesses, and can't realize that it is absolutely enough. Yeah, I'm a grifter. That makes me a grifter. Yeah, I don't even know what the definition of drifter is, but if that's it, then sign me up. That's me. While you have people that run out there and run their mouths and talk about the fact that they know it's in the paper, who have never given up anything in their life, who admittedly call themselves actors and say, I have the secret pill and I did these audits and I did these things, but you didn't do shit. They didn't do anything. Who took meat off the bone that wasn't theirs, or people that acted like village idiots that I stood and defended over and over and over again for 3 years. So you know what? It's my therapy and it's my show. So I appreciate that everyone made a sacrifice, some more than others. And you gave what you were willing to give. I gave what I was willing to give. But now we're in a different place. We're in a different place where, frankly, I've had enough. I've seen enough people jump off the ship and off the boat. So I've decided that every day I'm going to devote every single day to telling you what all of them wouldn't tell you. They all had the information, same as me. They knew about the Venezuelan nationals and the fact that they were whistleblowers. One of them was killed, murdered in 2022. They knew about it, said nothing. They knew about the election. They knew about Eric Coomer going all the way back to 2005. The CIA made Eric Coomer, made him. It wasn't a cold call while he was laying on the cold floor, dry heaving from being a drug addict. That wasn't the thing that got Eric Coomer. It was the connections that his family had at the Pentagon and in major defense contractors. It was a CIA agent named Chuck Faddis that showed up at my door and had a conversation with me, only to run back and say, I think we can contain this. We'll just go after him. And then when people started falling like flies when they got sued by Eric Coomer, everyone ran for the door. They created a fraternity not only against the idea that Eric was on that call, even though now he has an affidavit saying, oh, there was a call, but this guy said I wasn't on it. And all the facts that surround Eric Coomer for the last 20 years of what can only be described as being at every crime scene for elections over the last 20 years in multiple countries. That's all a facade, and we're not allowed to talk about it. And instead, companies like Newsmax and OAN and what was the last one? Salem put out saying that there's no credible evidence to suggest that Eric Coomer was involved in the crime of the century. Well, let me just tell you something. Not only was he involved in the crime of the century, but if you trace him back, he was in Mongolia. You can look at the elections in the Philippines in 2008, when they basically said that they had, or 7, when they had said that the government said, you have to sell Smartmatic, which is tied to Venezuela, but they said that wasn't true either. But it was true. And in 2005, March 2005, Smartmatic bought Sequoia Voting Systems. And less than a couple months later, guess who was the chief architect for Sequoia Voting Systems? That's right, Eric Coomer, a guy that before that just built websites. Fresh off of 2 near convictions that would have sent him to jail for a long time, being a drug addict, a failed divorce or a marriage in 2004, and you just start to get into 2006. The Chicago election, it was a total disaster. Who was at the front of that? Eric Coomer. The Philippines, Mongolia, Ukraine, moving operations over to Serbia, having people that were also couldn't pass a background check. Because, by the way, Coomer couldn't have passed a background check to work at McDonald's. And he was hunted down as a drug addict. See, I think they cleaned up Eric Coomer, and they did so because of his dissertation. And if you take his dissertation and you just feed that dissertation, I pulled it, copied it, put it down. You feed it into any of the LLMs and say, does this align with this cast vote record system and these anomalies in these elections? And guess what? It has an R-squared value of 0.9994. By the way, that means that 100% of it's true. That they hunted him down because of his ability to use complex algorithms and creating a system that was multi-state, multifunctional, and that they could steal any of those elections at any time. All they needed was gas. And that gas has been mail-in ballots. And they could trace it back. So over the next couple of weeks, I'm going to be doing more and more of this. I'm not going to stop talking about Eric Coomer. I'm going to talk about the Venezuelan nationals. And I'm going to talk about all of the other things that the CIA has done in this country and in other countries. And we have Larry Johnson. Is Larry with us yet? I think he worked for the CIA. And he likes to, he actually is a pretty tough guy, actually. I was watching the interview with him, so it should be interesting. He doesn't have to agree with me, but it'll be interesting to get his take on this. So can you give me his bio so I can walk through that really quick? I want to do a proper introduction. Oh, okay. Yep. He is a former CIA officer and State Department counterterrorism advisor, the managing partner at Berg Associates LLC since 1998. Specialized in money laundering investigations, financial analysis, and counterterrorism strategies, while training U.S. military special operations for 24 years. Once a frequent guest on major TV networks. In the 90s and 2000s, his candid, nonpartisan analysis led him his marginalization by establishment media and officials favoring forever wars. But his expertise in global security and geopolitics remains sought by businesses, non-mainstream media, and online dissident journalism. With notable 2024 appearances on the UN Security Council and St. Petersburg International Economic Forum, and regular contributions to platforms such as Sputnik, RT. I'm on RT quite a bit, so we have that in common. Judging Freedom, Redacted, and the Duran. So I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to go ahead and bring him in. But if I offended you yesterday, I don't care. If you can't give me grace for me offending you, given what I've done, then that's fine. You get to walk your path. I get to walk mine. Larry, welcome to the show.
Hey there. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Hey, I'm here.
Yeah, you got to hear a little bit about kind of my. You ever got to the edge of the deal and you're like, forget it, I'm done. I'm done with the Kabuki theater. That's where I am.
Yeah. I wasn't sure what the context was. I mean, I'm familiar with the events surrounding Eric Coomer.
Yeah.
And his attempts to pretend that Dominion had nothing to do with the election, which was ridiculous. But
I'm not the smartest guy in the room, just so you know. And if I can figure it out, that means they already figured it out.
Yeah.
Right. And that traced me all the way back to 2005. I started gathering information and pulling documents that I guess everybody thought disappeared. And that led me to, wait, hold on a second. They bought it in March of 2005. So how in the world did he get a cold call saying that he needed to go work for an election system at Sequoia Voting Systems as their chief architect? How did that happen? He built websites for small businesses. Please tell me how he got that job. Can you tell me?
Yeah. No, I can't. I don't believe in coincidence. I'll put it that way.
Because there are no coincidences. And then you do the math. So one of the things that came up in your thing that I thought was interesting is that, look, you worked in counterterrorism. You worked in financial crimes, correct?
Correct.
You look at patterns. Right?
Yeah, just follow the money.
If you have bodies that show up in every state and you have people that go missing and it aligns with the person, one person, let's say it's 5,000 transactions in this case, and there's one person that flew in on the same day to all 5,000 places. Is that your guy?
Yeah. That's, like I said, I don't believe in coincidence. And the probability of that just being a random event, very, very unlikely.
5,000 random events, because they'd all have to coincide.
Yeah.
Most unlucky guy in the world, right? That's my problem with the election systems, is because they know, and nobody spends 7,000, articles on a guy that is a tech guy. You don't cut the tongue out of the guy that's lying. Get the tongue out of the guy that's telling the truth. So I got some questions for you.
Sure.
You ever come across a guy named Chuck Faddis?
Yeah, I know who he is. Former CIA.
And there was another former CIA guy who passed away in, he passed away because of COVID, and was on a tour. Do you remember Robert?
Robert. Yeah, I know who you're referring to. Yeah, his. There's some questions about his past.
Yeah.
He makes claims about his experience that don't pan out in my judgment. What I've tried to check. I know.
Well, you'd have deeper knowledge than I would. But is it true? Is it true that once you're in the CIA, you're really never out of the CIA?
No.
Is that true?
Yeah. They won't let me back in the building.
Yeah, but that's because you speak the truth, and you've let out some secrets.
The reality of the CIA is, I think Hollywood has played a very important role in shaping public perceptions of the CIA, and you come away with it. It's Pierce Brosnan, that it's James Bond. It's this very sophisticated Sean Connery. But the reality is, once you work in it, it's like that cartoon Dilbert. That's who it is. Yeah.
So, are you trying to tell me it's not the smartest organization in the world?
Oh, I sit down and when you start telling stories, you give just one example. I've used this before. So I worked when I entered CIA. I spent a year in the career trainee program, and then became the Honduran analyst. And during that first year, I worked on the Afghan task force on the Directorate of Operations side, worked on the Central American task force, which is running the Contra program in Central America. Anyway, Congress had banned any money being spent on the Contras. They lifted that ban in 85, or the start of 86, really. And so the funding started up, and CIA, a guy named Alan Fires, who's running the Central American Task Force, put together at Swan Island, an island off the coast of Honduras, this base that was going to provide all the air delivery. Now, instead of buying one type of aircraft that you'd have 4 or 5 of them, he bought 5 different aircraft, which meant you had to have 5 different sets of parts, 5 different maintenance programs, and decided to put in charge of that base a guy who was an alcoholic. They knew he was an alcoholic. He'd been sent to the farm as an instructor because they couldn't send him out in the field because he was a drunkard. But now they figured, give him a second chance. So comes the day they got this new Casa 212 aircraft. It's one that they're going to do air deliveries to the Contras with. They got 2 Rhodesian pilots. These were contract mercenaries out of South Africa. And they were going to test the landing system, the beacon system, to be able to navigate back to the island in the dark. And so this new chief of base, he has this beacon and turns it on, and they verify that they can read it. These guys take off. It's the dusk, starting to get dark. And the chief of base says, well, I'll just go inside this concrete bunker, and I'm going to have a bottle of scotch, which he drinks, passes out. Well, now this beacon is inside this concrete bunker, which means it contains the signal. The signal will not go outside the concrete bunker. Here are these guys in this brand new, like $20 million aircraft flying around. They can't find the beacon. They can't locate the island. It's now in the dark. They run out of gas. They crash the brand new aircraft into the ocean, and they float around. They manage to get into a raft, float around for a couple of days until they're picked up by a Soviet trawler. And do you think that guy got fired? No. So that's an example.
So is it incompetence? All right. So tell me this: do they recruit out of the academia? Do they not troll and recruit from the academic stage of universities, schools?
Sometimes they do. There is an element of that.
Is your favorite Columbia University? In Berkeley, Cal Berkeley?
They used to do they used to be Ivy League. After that, they spread out around the country. I got in just because I put in an application. I had a friend. I had a contact with Senator Orrin Hatch, who wrote a letter of recommendation. But I'd lived overseas. I spoke Spanish, so I got in. Well, what's been interesting though is over the last 20 years. It didn't matter whether you had foreign language capability. It didn't. If you were a white guy, a Caucasian like me, and even if you had the perfect foreign language, they wouldn't really give you the time of day. So
you're trying to say DEI goes back a lot further than just the last 5 years.
Big time. In fact, out at CIA, if you had an employee who was homosexual, transgender, or of a different, of a ethnic group that, say African American, if they didn't get promoted, when they came up for what they call the PAR, the Performance Appraisal Report.
Yeah.
If you didn't promote them, then you as a supervisor had to write an explanation of why you didn't promote them. Well, in a bureaucracy, what happens when you get that? You don't want to have to write a damn justification, explain why this person's a screw up, because maybe they can go sue you. You promote them. Exactly right. That's what's been happening.
Why would you do that?
Huh?
That's a self-defeatist attitude. See, what you're saying is that all the cancer that we have around the country was created by putting people who recognize that they're dumber than rocks in positions of trust. So they talk like soup salad, they look like soup salad, and now soup salad becomes the norm. So you think soup salad is normal, and the reality of it is that these people are just stupid.
Yeah, there's no accountability. And that this isn't confined to CIA alone. I mean, it is pervasive throughout the government. It's just to point out that just because CIA you have to have a security clearance, you have to take a polygraph. Despite all of that, these kinds of bureaucratic political influences still creep in and affect the institution.
All right. So let me ask you a couple questions. Elections fair in 2020?
No, you kidding? It was stolen.
How about 2022?
Probably stolen.
But Larry, do you think that they can steal elections at any level at any time? They can pick and choose what elections that they actually take?
Yeah, and they're doing it.
At the local level.
Been at a local level with bipartisan cooperation, if you will. So we saw in Georgia as an example.
It's broken.
That remember when Stacey, what's her face? She thought she had it. Yes, Stacey Abrams. She had it cooked in. She thought she was going to win. She just didn't count on the fact that the existing governor, Republican governor, had it cooked in as well. He outcooked her. So, we've seen this over and over. The plan. Anybody that says, "Oh, this couldn't be," well, the evidence is coming forth right now about the plot, Russiagate plot, the deep state plot to pin Trump as an asset agent of Russia. The same characters are involved. It's been this was a comprehensive. This wasn't just Obama. That's the only problem I have.
It's a RICO operation. It is organized crime.
Yes.
This is no different than Al Capone's family, right? And you can see the signature. Look, if you were doing this for the CIA and you were looking for counterintelligence and looking at financial crimes, you would have found 500 million crimes that were committed if it would have been in the private sector. But because they're government employees and stooges, they get free passes. They get elitist passes.
Let's say the U.S. government's not real good with this concept of accountability. Okay, holding people responsible for what they do. Hey, you screw up in Afghanistan as a military, you get promoted. Here they got General Christopher Donahue, who's now commander of USUCOM. He was the guy, ground commander there in Afghanistan when it collapsed, is my understanding. And that was a complete, what they call Charlie Foxtrot. And does he get set aside? Oh, hell no, they promote him. So when you reward incompetence, then, you set a message, you set a standard, and that becomes the norm.
Talk to me about the Durham report. Talk to me about this Durham report annex that was just released. And it was the quickest declassification that has happened ever in document history. Yeah. I don't even think they let lawyers look at it. Like, declassify it.
Yeah.
Thoughts?
Well, look, I'm the one who went to Devin Nunes in March of 2017 to tell him. So let me explain how I knew Devin. In 2012, when Devin was first appointed to the House Intelligence Committee, he didn't know anything about CIA intelligence community. My next door neighbor in Bethesda was the largest defense lobbyist in DC and was been considered Devin a friend. And so he asked me, hey, would you go talk to Devin, give him a brief on the CIA? So I met Devin along with another CIA colleague of mine I took along, who was also retired, but had worked operations and been in several overseas posts. And we spent about 2.5 hours with Devin at the Republican Club there on Capitol Hill.
Republican.
Then he got named to be the head of the House Intelligence Committee. So it was early March of 2017. Trump was saying that he had been spied on, wiretapped by the FBI. Well, I had a friend who was highly placed in the intelligence community, and he was telling me something different. That no, this was principally the Brits, GCHQ, who used the back door in order to spy on Trump, as well as they spied on others. But now the entire focus was on Trump, starting in really January of 2016. And so I went in, I said, hey, Devin, I got to come tell you something. So I went in and I told him this, and he says, well, what are you talking about? So I explained that CIA and NSA are not a national security agency. They're not, it's illegal for them to spy on Americans unless you get something like a FISA warrant. However, there's a back door. The Brits, GCHQ, they do the same stuff as NSA. And in fact, we got NSA personnel that are located at GCHQ headquarters sitting right next to these analysts. So GCHQ can collect the intelligence, can collect the conversations, the phone calls, the emails, the text messages of Donald Trump or anybody in his team. And then they pass it. It's called liaison intelligence. So they pass it then to NSA and then to CIA, which is exactly what happened. So when I told Devin that and explained it, he waited a couple of days. He then went to the White House to check up on some information where I told him what to look for, what to ask for. And that's what then kicked off the investigation that Kash Patel did. And then that report has just been released as well as part of this document. So, I've known about this for 8 years and been trying to warn people about it, but nobody wanted to listen.
Well, they don't want to listen because I don't think they have the competency. And I'm going to tell you why I know that. I have a good friend who is a FBI whistleblower, who was basically, Kash Patel did really bad things to not honor the FBI whistleblower. Sorry, not a fan. Mm-hmm. It's hard to be a fan of someone who lacks loyalty, right?
I agree.
And so I sent a bunch of stuff over to him related to Eric Coomer and the stealing of elections. And I basically said, okay, here, by the way, is all the proof. This should be enough for any DOJ person with a half a brain should look at this, be able to verify it and say, not Eric, but Dominion. I said, this is very easy. Here's the stuff. And I sent it to him. And he was like this. He goes, Joe, I don't even know where to start. Right? I don't know where to start. And remember, the trap was before the hammer and scorecard bullcrap, right? That was the first thing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so you have this, it can knock on your head, rub on your belly. See, that was the op. Because hammer scorecard is not some special thing that Dennis Montgomery did, right? The guy's a fraud.
You obviously haven't read what I've written on this.
No,
I was one of the first ones to call him out. So one of my other classmates from my career trainee program, who was in the Division of Science and Technology, he worked with Dennis Montgomery back in the day. And Montgomery was a fraudster. Montgomery was a fabricator. And, he claimed that he had uncovered these digital messages that were buried inside of, just regular data. I mean, it was just
leprechaun.
And so, yeah. So what he Montgomery is a great salesman, and he pulled off a great scam. But there was no such thing as hammer and scorecard. It was complete bullshit. He made it up. But you know,
Well, there was a hammer program, but it didn't do what he said it did, and you know he got people in the GSA to give him BAA contracts, right? You know, broad agency agreements to say that, hey, I can build this, and he couldn't build anything. He couldn't build anything. The guy's not just a fraud. He knows how to make a computer screen look like it's lighting up and doing all sorts of funny bebop, bop, bebop, bop, bebop. That's how you know that it's a fraud. Like if the UI, if the UX is that good, it's a fraud. Unless you're talking about an Apple front end, because coders are not like that.
Yeah, I tried to warn, you know, the My Pillow guy that he was a fraud, and he didn't want to hear it. In fact, he denounced me. They had that big conference where there was going to be this big reveal, and Dennis Montgomery is going to come out and show all the data, and then
he didn't show up.
Yeah, didn't show up. It turned out to be a complete bust.
All right, so I was there. You're talking about the symposium.
Yeah, the symposium. Remember, he came out and denounced me, Mike.
Now, do you work with Gateway Pundit?
I was writing for Gateway Pundit at the time.
Okay.
I'm still friends with Jim and Joe Hoft, but guys. I write my own writings down at sonar21.com. So
let's go back to the Dennis Montgomery thing if we can for a minute, because I want to punch that guy in the face, right? And Steve Bannon was one of the first people to actually light it up and say that hammer scorecard, we got this. I mean, I felt, and it made sense until I dug into Dennis Montgomery. It took me 5 minutes, right?
Yeah, I mean, he had gambling debts.
Well, he didn't show up, and he said he was in the hospital. And I was like, okay, what area is in the hospital? Now, this is, by the way, after I found out that there were no PCAPs. Like the PCAPs were all made up. Matter of fact, you could trace them back to a university data file that you could pull off the internet, right? And I did that again in 10 minutes. It took me 10 minutes to figure that out. And I walked over to Mark Cook, and I'm like, Mark, this is a ruse. Something's wrong. This is not good. And he's like, oh, Dennis Montgomery's in the hospital. So I had somebody take a picture of him. Guess where he was at?
A beach in the Caribbean.
He's at the supermarket.
Oh,
he's at the supermarket. He's like, he looks pretty good for being in a hospital. He says, no. So I called the hospital, and they said he's there. I was like, bro, he's literally at the Save-A-Lot. That's where he's at. And they just didn't listen to me. They didn't listen to me. Conan Hayes, the whole 9 yards. It's downhill spiral.
Yeah, if you go to the Gateway Pundit, I wrote several articles that were posted there about Dennis Montgomery, and or provided Jim and Joe Hoft with a lot of the information that they put up. But he was a fraud. Same with this other character called Ryan Dark White. There was
never
a mass.
Who's that guy? That, all the time. I've never heard of that guy. Who's that guy?
Oh, go to Lynn Wood was big on him. Remember, Lynn Wood was the one saying that he was the one who provided information about the conspiracy to kill Seth Rich. Yeah. So, but this was a massive disinformation intel operation to get these people to go out and plant stories to divert people so that you would not look at what actually happened. And they would exaggerate and claim, oh, China was doing this. Oh, this Italian defense contractor was doing it. These are all squirrels. They were squirrels that were sent out to just like you take a dog for a walk, the squirrel goes running by, the dog starts chasing the squirrel. That's all they were. Squirrels that keep you from looking at what actually happened, that the math didn't add up, and that there were ways that the votes were being changed.
Yeah, so I'm glad you brought that up, because I called that the big cons and the small cons. The small cons were run it through the machine over and over and over again. The reality of it is they didn't know it wasn't going to work and do anything anyway, because they had a separate database, which we proved in Mesa County, that were already on the machine. And that all the elections, that's what you saw in Arizona and Maricopa, is that they just took a bunch of ballots, threw them in boxes, and said, "Oh, the counts add up." But the
Right.
reality of it is that it was a stolen. It was a manufactured election. It was
Yes.
manufactured from beginning to end. It was manufactured, right? There's
Yeah.
none of the outcomes in Maricopa County align with how anybody voted. And people are like, "Oh, yes, it did." And I'm like, "How do you know?" I can tell you how you don't know, right? By what they took
Right.
away from you. So, look, Lynn Wood is another crazy character. How do you square that guy?
Yeah. Well, I tried. He hooked up with this guy Ryan Dark White, who was a 2-time, 3-time convicted felon. White is now dead.
What's his name?
Ryan Dark White.
And he's dead. What did he die of? COVID?
Yeah. No, he died bad lifestyle. The guy. I mean, he sold this line of that he was some great FBI informant and that he was involved. He knew that the government had Seth Rich killed. That kind of stuff. And Lynn Wood used him as proof.
Fodder.
He did a whole deposition with the guy and filmed it, posted it online, and. I'd run across the guy previously and been asked to investigate him and realized, he claimed to be this college graduate with multiple doctorate degrees. He had a GED that he got in prison. Okay. I mean, the guy he was crazy.
Is this the Dr. John McGreevy?
Yes.
So his real name's not Dr. McGreevy?
No, Ryan Dark White. Yeah.
Wow. Okay. He worked at a child's adult bookstore.
Yeah.
This is look, Larry, let me just tell you something. This is why we can't win. This is why people don't take us seriously. Right? They don't take it seriously because of people like this. How did this guy even get a seat at the table? How did anybody believe him?
Well, he was inserted. He was inserted, I believe, by the FBI.
Okay, and he's dead. This dude's dead.
Yeah, he died last year before last. But up and then he was going strong. Yeah, so both Ryan Dark White and then Dennis Montgomery. they're all just characters in this whole scam.
All right, can I ask you a question then?
Yeah,
you might not like this one. This is one of the guys that I absolutely despise in this movement, right? And so you can say something nice about him. He might actually like it if you did. Jeffrey Filio.
Who?
Jeffrey Filio, aka Jovan Pulitzer.
Yeah. No, I had no contact with him.
Yeah, but he's an actor. I mean, look, he has. You want to talk about paper tigers or sock puppet accounts? So I'm a data guy. I went through all of his accounts and everything else, and I'm like, this guy is not a real person.
Mm-hmm.
He has and he buys up patents from people and then puts his names on them, right? So you do the history and you go look past things. I mean, it's a real problem, right? And he's the one that said it's only the paper, don't look at the machines, right? And I'm like, you're retarded. And he gets out there and he creates this blustering environment. And yet the guy, I don't even know who could fall. I feel like it's like Dennis Montgomery 2.0. And he was a treasure hunter. Like he literally was on a series for treasure hunting and sells gems, like little rocks.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it blows my mind. It blows my mind. I look at it and go, oh man, all right. So I've made a couple of mistakes in my life, but these guys don't know tech. They don't know. They don't know anything about tech, and they're trying to tell us what happened in the elections. Again, another small con, big con, run around here, chaos, point over here, right?
It was having conducted or been part of information operations when I was at CIA. I worked on it briefly during my first year there. I was on the Afghan task force, and one of the covert action methods at the time. This was back in the Stone Age. We didn't have the internet was just becoming a thing, barely a thing. I had just gotten my first desktop computer in 1985. So well, we didn't. There weren't the social media sites. You're having to use a dial-up modem. People your age probably don't
So-
even remember what
Stop.
that was.
I got a 28-year-old daughter and a 25-year-old son. Of course I know what it is.
Okay. So, but we were planning articles in newspapers and magazines. We're having videos made, both shorts, documentaries, movies. And there was one guy in France by the name of Jean-Jacques Servan-Schreiber, who was, man, he was paranoid that the CIA was behind everything. And he had this magazine that was really anti-CIA. We were even able to plant articles in his magazine. So the fact that there was this shaping of narratives in order to keep people from looking at what actually happened by letting people like Ryan Dark White come out with their theories about, how China stole the election. To have people like this Ryan Dark White show up and talk about a conspiracy that actually didn't happen in order to draw attention from the real conspiracy that did happen. There were just, it was one after another. And, it was designed to, if you will, to create a fog so that you couldn't see what was actually going on. And it was pretty damn effective. I got to give them credit.
So I just said that the CIA recruited Eric Coomer. I worked in the Middle East and Africa for 6.5 years, right? I worked in weird stuff and saw a lot of stuff that was frankly discouraging, right? Does the CIA operate on U.S. soil?
Yes.
Are they
Yeah.
supposed to?
No, they're allowed to, but they're allowed to operate on U.S. soil to recruit foreigners or to work with U.S. citizens that have contacts in foreign countries.
I believe that they recruited Eric Coomer to steal elections because there's a group of people that were captured inside the CIA. Am I far off based on all the timeline stuff?
It wouldn't surprise me.
Do you remember Clint Curtis?
Clint Curtis, no.
2004, he testified before Congress that he was approached by a congressman in Florida and asked to build a system that could actually subvert an election and be undetectable. It was in October of 2004.
Yeah, I believe you. I was not familiar with him.
Turns out that the same people that used to build that system that he worked for were directly tied to another group of people who, frankly, came to the United States, started a company called Smartmatic.
Oh, okay.
Delaware corporation based out of Palm Beach, Florida. A year later. Larry, why would the CIA, let me ask a different question. Why would people in the government do the things that they have been doing for the last 25 years? It's probably longer, but let's say 25 years, since it mattered to me. Why would they be doing things like this to subvert the will of the people, steal the voice of the people in a country that, why?
Well, you have to ask yourself which people, because normally this, I think the trail leads back to those that got money. A lot of people in the intelligence community will be associated with corporations, banks, wealthy individuals outside of government. We just learned yesterday that Jeffrey Epstein was an FBI informant. Did you hear that?
He was a federal informant.
Yeah.
So didn't we already know this, that he was, because he got qualified immunity? He got absolute immunity, and so did anyone that would have worked with him.
Well, we knew that, but we didn't know. We actually saw it's now a document that was FOIA, was obtained, where it states very clearly that he was an FBI asset.
So how do you have a guy that peddles children for high profile people? Sorry, that is an FBI informant. How do you square that?
Yeah. Well, that actually explains probably why he got killed in prison, because he was going to we say, hey, look, I've been working with the FBI now he'd been working with the FBI for at least 12 years from the date that he died and when he first started working with them. But, the FBI couldn't let that out. I think that provides an excellent, one possible explanation of who killed him or why he was killed.
What about the
But,
video, Larry? Why'd they give us a video of a different part of the prison and tell us that
Because
that
they
was
assumed
where-
you were stupid. Come on. The thing most people say, oh yeah, I saw it in the video. I can't believe. Well, I can't say that. I am shocked that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel would either be that stupid or that nefarious as to pass off that cooked video, which only shows one angle and doesn't even show the entrance to Montgomery's, the entrance to Epstein's cell.
It didn't even show
And
it.
they
It
claimed that-
wasn't even in the same area.
Exactly. It was if you look at that video, you can see a set of stairs, a portion of a set of stairs, but you can't see actually the whole stairwell. And they claimed that there was only one entrance into the facility when in fact there were two entrances. And the one entrance that is not shown on camera was the one that somebody could have come in and out of.
Okay, so let's say that Epstein is an FBI informant and they killed him, which they probably did, and Kardashian Patel and Kash Bongino. Sorry, I mixed them up together a little bit.
Yeah,
Kardashian Patel. Let's say hypothetically that those two guys went in there gung ho. They stepped on the bodies of the whistleblowers in the FBI in order to get in there, right? They got in there and they saw too much. They were threatened. They didn't have the stomach for it. I mean, what would lead a person to act the way that they have acted?
If they're told that this is tied to a very sensitive intelligence operation, or that this could disrupt intelligence relations, say with Israel.
Well, that's got to be a reality.
And or that if this gets exposed, this could lead to the destruction of the FBI.
But Kash Patel came out and said that he was going to turn it into a bookstore. he said, well, I'm going to the FBI. I'm just going to shut it down.
Yeah, well, like I said, when you're sitting outside, it's easy to talk, and then you get inside, and all of a sudden you get bought into the bureaucracy. It's unfortunate.
We should call Kash Patel, like Cash Patel.
Cash out, sell out Patel.
Yeah, cash out Patel. Cash out Patel. That's a good word for it. So talk to me about, you're on RT. RT's now banned, right? You can't. They're in essence banned from the United States.
Yeah, if you try to go to the App Store to download the RT app, it won't let you. That's why, unfortunately, I already had it on my Apple TV, so I didn't have to go searching for it on Rumble.
I had to get it on my TV, Apple TV, and it wouldn't let you play it on my television.
Yeah.
Right.
Land of the free, home of the brave.
What are they afraid of? I regularly watch RT, and it's a pretty true analysis. I mean, they got some people on there, like they had what's his name from Columbia that I think is an absolute stooge. He's a CIA guy. Probably ran across him. Man, what was his name? What is wrong with me? I feel like I'm brain freeze.
From Columbia?
Yeah. Dr. He's now an expert on everything elections and stuff. I mean, he was an expert on how to, get rid of poverty in Africa. That didn't work. $6 billion later. The Millennium Project guy, Jeffrey Sachs.
Oh, Jeffrey Sachs. Okay, yeah.
Now where was I going with that?
Well, you're just talking about RT.
Oh, RT.
I would just note that. So I started doing television, becoming a TV talking head back in August 1994.
Okay.
When I just left state CT.
I was just a little kid.
Carlos the Jackal had been captured, and CNN was looking for somebody to come on and talk about it. And it turns out that the booker at CNN was the brother of the press guy at the counterterrorism office. So Joe Reep told his brother Pat, "Hey, call Larry Johnson." So I went on, and that launched me. After that, I was on everything. I did Crossfire probably 18 times. I did ABC News Nightline probably 12 to 14 times over the years. I was the NBC terrorism analyst for Y2K. I was on 60 Minutes. I did absolutely every cable and regular news station you could do. And then in 2007, when I started speaking out against Barack Obama, I disappeared. I was no longer welcome on any of the news media, which is fine. But during that entire period, I started doing RT probably about 2014. They first asked me, maybe it was 2015. But what was interesting is I was interviewed once I got back on CNN on the Brian Stelter's show, and he accused me of being a propagandist for the Russians, and I just said, "Brian, yeah." And so, "You're just a Russian, you're on RT." I said, "Well, Brian, let me tell you something." I said, there are only two media stations where they've never done a pre-interview. And the pre-interview is where the producers call you up in advance and say, "Yeah, Mr. Johnson, listen, this is our topic for today. We'd like to hear what you think. What are you going to say?" And so I was always pre-interviewed for CNN, for Fox News. I was a Fox News talking head for 1 year, paid contract, on MSNBC, on BBC, on Canadian Broadcasting, CBC, CBS, ABC, across the board. The only two that I've never had a pre-interview on.
This is true, by the way.
Is RT and then Iranian Press TV. Think about that.
I did Iranian Press TV. I also did Al Jazeera.
Did you get a pre-interview at Press TV? Yeah.
They're like, they didn't even ask me what I thought. I told them, and it was live. So they take me live. I mean, I'm live on the air.
Yeah.
When I'm saying this.
Yeah.
And sometimes I give them a take where I'm like, "Hey, have you thought about this?" Because they'll ask me a question. I'll be like, "Hey, have you thought about this? This could be a reason why." So it doesn't necessarily, like, I don't believe in how our foreign policy is developed and or implemented when you have people like Susan Rice that lie with impunity and have done really horrible things to destroy the sovereignty of nations. Makes it very difficult. And the fact is that I know more about it than most people that even work at the CIA, right? Because I've spent a lot of time studying it, and I was over there, right? I was there on the ground, boots on the ground. So they're like, "Hey, talk. Tell us what you think."
Yeah. Yeah. That's how I thought, I was naive enough to think, well, this is how it always should be. But, I'd learned early on, particularly with like Fox and BBC, that they call up. And then once they hear what I had to say, they go, "Oh, listen, we've had a change of plans. we're going a different direction today." I said, "I bet you are."
Well, and then once you start talking about, that's another thing Dennis Montgomery got himself in the middle of, was the Obama birth certificate deal. That was him with Sheriff Arpaio. And look what they did to Sheriff Arpaio right after that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they looked for an opening and took it.
If you go to my blog, sonar21.com.
Yeah, let's pull it up.
In the upper right-hand corner, there is a search, a little magnifying glass that you can search. It should be up there in the upper right-hand, far upper right-hand corner. Maybe it doesn't appear there, but you can search.
Let me see if I can find it here.
You can search do a search on Hammer and Scorecard.
Do a search really quick, guys. I know you can't see it because you framed it, but do a quick search on Hammer and Scorecard, will you?
Or Dennis Montgomery, and it'll bring up the articles I wrote. I just went to Gateway Pundit. They took one of them down.
Why?
Well, they got sued by those two women down in Georgia.
Oh yeah,
and I think I
had to take stuff down too. I mean, Joe was on Untamed for a long time, and then I just decided I was going to make a change from Conservative Daily to Untamed, and So he went back to Gateway Pundit, which is really good because I'm glad the two brothers are actually doing well together.
Yeah, reconciled again.
Yeah, that's good.
They, it was, I enjoyed working with them, but the article they claimed it was they put up there they regret publishing it. Well, that's bullshit. The article is absolutely true. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
I only deal with facts on these people, not speculation.
So that is my biggest problem with our entire movement. The Salem media put out there saying that there is no evidence. You had Newsmax say there was no evidence, credible evidence that Joe Oltmann was on a call. And it wasn't just about the call. It was about Eric Coomer fixing the election in 2020. But I was on that call, and so was he. And despite the fact that we have affidavits that they went out and found the guy that was on the call with me. So he was on the call. He was in my notes. They found the guy, had him write an affidavit, turned the affidavit in. It outlines everything that's in my notes. True story. It came up in the Mike Lindell deal. And then said there wasn't a call. But inside the affidavit said that Eric Coomer wasn't on the call. That's what they said.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, pop it in.
Yeah, that's what I was just saying.
Larry Johnson, a closer look at the hammer and scorecard. Can we look at that? Can we look that article up?
Yeah, go to sonar21.com.
Is it on there?
Yeah, tell you what here. Let me can give this. I'll give
Which
this to
one
you
is it?
in the chat. Hang on in the chat. I'm pasting a link in for you.
All right.
That you can.
And look, I can't hold it against. So the Gateway Pundit was basically sued into non-existence. They used lawfare to get to him, right?
Oh yeah. I was part of that case too. I mean, I deposed in it.
And I want to say this, Jim, financially and emotionally, it was a lot because I just want to say that he wants to do the right thing and he always wants to publish the things that are true, right? Right. Joe Hoft is above reproach. The guy is 1,000% a Boy Scout. He's not mentally, he's not even built to a place where he would not pursue what is right. In my opinion, right?
Yeah.
Ever. And I'm not saying Jim would or wouldn't, but I know Joe really well. And that guy is literally probably, first of all, one of the smartest guys, got 3 books out. Smart guy. So, there's a lot of things that they can do to pull that down. So this is it? This is the article?
Yeah, this is one of them. I mean, if you go into it, how I came to know Jim and Joe was I forget what the issue was, but they were being misled. They were being fed a line of BS. And they were going to put this article up. And then I was able to explain to them why it was a lie. And so we, myself and another fellow by the name of Yakov Applebaum.
Yeah, I know Yakov.
You know Yakov?
But he's Mossad Security Services, isn't he?
Yeah. Well, he was Unit 8200. He's.
I mean, you could try to separate yourself from it, but you can't. I mean, there's no.
He's cut off all since October 7th. He will have no contact with me.
Why? Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yakov.
He's somebody said that to me, and I was like, okay, let me just go do some checking on this. And so I have family and friends, right? So I call him like, dude, he's Mossad, and I was like, what? Yeah, he's part of security services. I was like, what? Come on now. True story. Yeah. I'm just going to tell you what I was told.
I think he's still. I think he's still very actively engaged.
I was told. That's what I was told.
He was, and for a while, he found me to be a convenient relationship. But once I became an outspoken critic of what Israel was doing in Gaza, he wouldn't even return phone calls, wouldn't return email messages, and we'd collaborated on a number of things. In fact. Is
Yakov still working at Gateway Pundit or no? He's not, is he?
I don't know. He was never employed. So. He just had a relationship.
But a bunch of the information that he got inside this case with the 2 women down it came from him. And the other stuff that came from out of Georgia came from him as well. Right?
Yeah. And it was true. The information was true. They just this what
Well,
what
most
had
of the
happened.
information was true.
Yeah.
Most. So that's the key, right? Give enough information in kernels that you can also disprove it by giving a little bit of information that basically muddies the water. And that's what they did in 2020 election, 2022 election, specifically.
Yeah. So, but when Mary Fanning, Mary Fanning was one of the ones pushing the Dennis Montgomery nonsense. Now I know that there was a lawsuit between Mary Fanning and Yakov Applebaum. I'm not sure if that's been resolved yet.
I heard somebody else was involved in that. Who else said that Yakov sued him for slander or something? He sued someone. Who knows?
Yeah. So, but it's I mean,
Mossad's got deep pockets. They just call the U.S. up and say, "Hey, Daddy, give me another couple billion."
Well, you see, I've been in the periphery of. I'm not trying to represent myself as the central guy in all of this, but I'm friends. I was actually friends with the father of J.P. McIsaac, John Paul McIsaac, the laptop repairman in Delaware.
I met with him in December of 2020. I was one of the first people to interview him at his uncle's house.
Okay,
in Monument, Colorado.
So in October, I think it was October 15th of 2020 when the story broke, and one of my oldest friends that lives down here in Florida with me, he had been the co-pilot with Steve McIsaac in Vietnam. They'd flown a gunship together, and so Bob and Steve stayed in touch. And so Bob gets a hold of me and says, "Hey, Steve needs to talk to you." So I get a hold of this. I call Steve and he's like, "What's up?" Because we played golf together 25 years ago. And he goes, "My son, he won't listen to me." I said, "Well, what's your son?" And then he told me I said, "Oh, that's your son." So I got on the phone with JP, spent about 2 hours, finally got him where he was going to take some steps to protect himself, told him what to do, got him lined up with a lawyer, a number of things. So, I was involved with that. And to help secure the hard drive, the guy that went down to visit him was Yakov Applebaum. That's how, the story started. Tucker Carlson saying that he'd heard that this was a Mossad effort. And I said, no, the Mossad had, Yakov I know he had former affiliation with Unit 8200. Whether that transferred over to Mossad, I don't know. But
I'm going to tell you this. Yakov did not know anything about the fact that there was multiple copies made of that drive.
Well, what we had, the 3 drives, there are 3 of them right now. They're in the possession of JP's lawyer. There was one guy who was
the copy.
Well, there was one guy who,
because the originals were given to the FBI agents.
Right. Well, he actually gave them copies, I think. But the difference is there was one guy running around making a claim that there was all this child pornography on it. Again, he was another one of those disinformation agents out to discredit it, because the information on the laptop was legit. JP was you've interviewed him. He's not a scam artist. He's not a pretentious guy. He's not a glory hound. He just, hey, this is wrong, and I tried to do something about it, and then found out that the FBI was corrupt as hell.
And he got sued by Hunter Biden. And you had the 51 intelligence analysts that said it was Russian disinformation. They even went the wrong direction. They're like, it's Russian. You're like, what is happening here? How is this possible?
Well, it's just, again, it's how you discredit. It's how you go after him. He's still got the legal battles going. A corrupt judge in Delaware wouldn't let his suit against Hunter go forward, but they're allowing Hunter's suit against him. And the only damage Hunter suffered was by Hunter being a prick,
and a drug addict, and a really bad guy.
Yeah, just his own. He needs to be held accountable for his own life. So,
so they didn't let the suit against him go forward. So basically, they put their fingers on the scales of justice again.
Yeah.
All right. We are holding tight on a case out of Colorado that is a federal case that the DOJ should take up. They should look into this corruption that goes all the way up to the top, to the governor, to the attorney general, to the secretary of state. Pretty big case. And so I reached out.
That's
I
Miss
reached out.
Peters, is it?
This is
What's her
totally
name?
different. That's Tina Peters. Totally different case.
Tina.
Totally different
Okay.
case. This involves the judiciary in Colorado that basically were involved in sex crimes and bribery to the tune of close to $20 million. Okay, provable with receipts.
Mhm.
Okay, this case is so, the story is so pronounced that the DOJ is hesitant to take it forward, right? Well, let me just tell you why. You ready?
Yeah.
The AUSA in Colorado is married to one of the Colorado Supreme Court justices. And the AUSA in Colorado is now corroborating with the other, or is hands off, so to speak, which you know is not true, right? For their spouse being under investigation with this potential case, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the norm inside of our system. What I just described to you is the norm. So you know that the judge in Delaware got a phone call saying, hey, you got to slow this down. We want to fatigue JP, right? So what I need you to do is slow this down, make him put it on appeal. He'll appeal it a second time. Then we'll let it go through. Let's wear him all the way down so that the case goes away. Pour cold water on it is what I'm asking you to do. Right?
Yes.
That is the way that our government system apparatus works. Pour water on it. And in essence, it's worked up to this point.
The wheels are sort of starting to come off, thanks in part, I think. Candace Owens has been effective at it. Tucker Carlson's been effective at it.
Because Macron's wife has a penis.
Yeah, well, man. When I first heard that story, I thought, oh, this is sort of goofy. Come on. But then I sat down and listened to her go through the evidence and went, you know what? I don't see any place to punch holes in. If someone was claiming that, like I was born a female, I could produce the pictures of me as a little boy, going back. But
okay, so here's my question for you. Did you hear what happened with the case where Macron's wife sued Candace Owens? Did you hear about that?
Yeah.
So Candace accepted it.
Yeah.
And then Candace filed a petition to the court for a DNA test. Did you hear about that? And so the court said, okay, we want you to take a DNA test. That'll put it to bed right now. And Macron dismissed the case, dropped the case. That just happened on Monday. Yeah. They said they're dropping the case. So you got the husband of Macron. Can we call him a husband now? I guess we can. We call him a husband. The husband of Macron that says, I'm a woman. And then yet they sue Candace Owens. Candace Owens is like, that's a dude. That's a dude. It swings. And if it doesn't, it's because they choppy. That's a dude. Right? Yeah. And then the court says, yeah, just give him a DNA test and we'll call it good. And they're like, yeah, case dismissed. We're going to walk away from this case.
I hadn't heard that. That should be, that again should be front page news.
But it won't.
Yeah. Yeah. The fact that I'm having to come here to hear it,
I couldn't believe it.
Which isn't not a knock on you, but it's just, this is sort of the beauty of what the age in which we're living, that, let's call it, you and I, what we are, alternative media, where we're no longer beholden, when I used to go on to, whether it was Fox or CNN or MSNBC. So I lived in Bethesda, Maryland on what was called Burning Tree Road.
I know where that road.
And so they would show up at my house in a limo. The limos were always driven by Pakistani guys. Okay. I guarantee you, Pakistani ISI, it was all over them. That's number one. So they pick me up. I'd have a 30 to 45 minute ride downtown to get to whether CNN or MSNBC or CBS or whatever. And then you sit in the green room for 15 minutes. They put makeup on you. Then you go on air, and you're on air for maybe for 5. Sometimes it'd be 10 minutes. With Crossfire, it would be 20 minutes with commercials. Then you get back in the car, schlep back home. Now you're in probably rush hour traffic or something. So I've spent 3 hours total time for a 5-minute to 20-minute appearance. Whereas opposed with this, I put on my bunny slippers, I come sit in front of my computer and dial in on Zoom and say, "Hey, how you doing?"
It's a whole lot more fun, and you know what it is? It's
God.
authentic.
Yeah.
It's authentic.
Yeah.
I think that's why people love it. It is authentic. All right, let me. I won't take a ton more of your time, but I want to say this: if you looked at the lessons that you learned at the CIA and Berg Associates, what do you think that the readers can take away specifically by what you have on Sonar 21? Because there's a lot. I mean, I just spent a little bit of time on it. It's a lot.
Never take the first story as true. Always question. Always question. Because usually the first story is designed to mislead and to keep you from the truth. So it's never quite what it appears. What we've done in Berg Associates, we're sort of defunct right now. I mean, my other partner who's still sort of active, John Moynihan.
Mm-hmm.
John is the one who filed a whistleblower complaint against Jack Smith with the Inspector General of DOJ, CIA, and FBI. Just this week, you saw that now a special counsel has taken up the case against Jack Smith, because what Jack Smith was doing was running an extortion ring, shaking down gangsters in Serbia and in Russia. And
say it again. Say the Serbia word.
Serbia and Russia, and pocketing millions of dollars. And he got it. He was tipped off to this by a former colleague in DEA, and John used to run the undercover money laundering operations in New York City. So that case is now.
He's got a good reputation for sure.
Oh, well, yeah. He's terrific. He and his college roommate Larry Doyle, they also filed a whistleblower complaint 7 years ago of the IRS against the Clinton Foundation. Finally, after 7 years, let's see, it was 2017. No, they were at 8 years. Now, after 8 years, it's going to trial on December 1st.
I'd love to have it.
And what's interesting, all of John's witnesses are IRS investigators who are saying that they were told to cover this up. IRS leadership tried to cover up the fact that the Clintons had not been paying taxes on billions of dollars.
Do we have that? Do you have an article you wrote on this or no?
Yeah, I think it's on. Yeah. You could probably find it on Sonar.
Just pull that up.
Patrick, search for John. Search for John Moynihan. You can also go on YouTube, look for Moynihan and Doyle. They did a testimony before the House Government Operations Committee back in, it was like December of 2017, and laid all this case out. So yeah, Moynihan's a character.
I got to have you on again. We're going to have more conversations. I do want to ask you about the U.S.'s approach to combating international terrorism today versus what it was. I mean, I feel like we don't even talk the words terrorism, although you have arguably millions of people in this country that could be a threat to national security.
Well, you may not like my take. The United States is the greatest enabler of terrorism.
I agree.
We armed and equipped the Islamists in Afghanistan to attack the Soviets back in the 1980s. Then we turned around and also helped arm and equip them so that they carried out a 10-year terrorist war inside of Russia in Chechnya from 1999 to 1989. We just we just put in place an actual ISIS terrorist, Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, aka al-Shara, in Syria, and we were funding and supporting him. Now these guys are I differentiate between the Al Qaeda, the Bin Laden crew, and the ISIS crew, because the Bin Laden crew was not so much inspired by Islam. Yeah, they had an Islamic tent there, but they were more about fighting U.S. imperialism. That's how they viewed it. Whereas this ISIS crowd emerged out of Al Qaeda in Iraq, with Zarqawi being the first guy, and we got letters where Bin Laden and al-Zawahiri were writing, complaining to Zarqawi that, hey, you got to stop killing all the Shia Muslims. We got to stop this Muslim stuff. We got to get along. And Zarqawi is, no, they're infidels. He was really driven by this pure, if you will, religious fanaticism. But the CIA, that's who the CIA hooked itself to. So a lot of what we hear about, quote, terrorism, more often than not, in my view, is just fabricated. It's fabricated to create a narrative, just like we've seen in all these other areas. Get Americans spun up. So we'll send your sons and daughters to die. For what? Hey, Lockheed Martin, General Dynamics, Raytheon, they got some money to make, dude.
Yeah, so it's funny you actually talk about what happened when we fought and armed Islamists against Russia. That was actually then co-sponsored by another faction in Russia that was helping the United States run interference so that they could fund the Islamists against Russia. So you had Russia communicating with the United States, wink, wink. Here's what I want you to do. You fund them. We'll send them in, and we're basically going to have them fight a war that creates opportunity for us. And the system of the monetary system out of that produced billions of dollars for both the U.S. and for Russia at the same time, while sacrificing the people on both sides in that equation. Yeah. So the Islamists were basically the useful idiots, and the soldiers on the Russian side became the other useful idiots.
Yeah,
more Islamists died than Russians, and it just seemed to have a never-ending supply of radicals. But I mean, Larry, we created terrorism. There were no weapons of mass destruction in when we went in there in 2002. Right?
Yeah, so, no, I know.
And if you go back to the 1990s, when Madeleine Albright said that when asked on 60 Minutes, I think it was 1996, she was asked, because they had the offensive that happened in 91 through 93 inside of Iraq that killed almost 500,000 women and children. And she was asked, was this the right move? Is this good? And she said, yes, it was really good for our needs. So killing 500,000 children met what we had as far as our interests.
Yeah.
And that it shows you the slanted nature of the morality index of the people in the United States who are told to sit down, don't be violent, and the violence that is created by people, and more often the CIA and unhinged organizations tied to alphabet soup that we can't even identify.
Right. Well, we can go back to 1981. Ronald Reagan gave Mossad permission to sell U.S. arms to Iran.
Yeah.
Now, Iran had just released our hostages, and this led up ultimately to the Iran-Contra, but it started way before that, because initially Iran was wanting to buy tires for the F-4 Phantom jet, and U.S. was banning it, and the Israelis said, "Hey, we'll help you." And at the same time, the United States was arming and equipping Saddam Hussein with chemical weapons, or the chemicals needed to make chemical weapons.
Yeah.
We encouraged that war between Iran and Iraq. At one point, we were supplying intelligence. I know the guy who hand carried the intelligence to the Iraqi government back in 1987, 88.
Do you know that Saddam Hussein turned some of those chemicals into fertilizer and then resold it and made billions of dollars?
That wouldn't surprise me.
he actually turned it into something good and made, and created commerce with it. Anyway, This is a fun fact.
Yeah. So like I said, I've been fortunate in my life. I've been in a lot of sort of, I'm a little bit like Forrest Gump, that I'm all of these critical events. I'm in the background. I'm not the main player, but I've got a front row seat, or I've been, directly involved in some of it.
Well, I got to tell you, I do appreciate you coming on with me. How can people follow you directly?
If they go to sonar21.com, that just follow through that. And then there usually, if you go to the front page correctly, sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. There's a little magnifying glass in the upper right-hand corner. You can search for articles, search for like Hammer and Scorecard or Dennis Montgomery if you want to get into that. Search for Ryan Dark White if you want to go down that path. Search for Russiagate. I wrote extensively on that in 2018, starting in 2017. So I was one of the early ones, as I said. I'm the one that got Devin Nunes launched on this. So I think I've got, I know something about what I'm talking about.
Well, I got to tell you, I've enjoyed your commentary and the things that you wrote on the Gateway Pundit. I'll follow you personally on sonar21.com. And, I'll probably share a bunch of your stuff, and I'll connect with you afterwards just so you have my digits so we can communicate. Obviously, I'm not one to mince words. And so neither are you, which will be good. It'll be
it's always gotten me into trouble.
Trouble is the word for accountability, right? I mean, if you're willing to hold people accountable and you're respectful of people, and I think that's the thing. But we should never be respectful of those people that would steal the voice of an entire nation or even other nations that aren't ours. And I think that's what we're up against right now.
Correct. Hey, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me.
All right. God bless you. Thank you, Larry.
Okay. Bye.
All right. All right, we're going to take a commercial break. Before we do, I just want to give a shout out to our sponsor, which is Goldco. You have the ultimate guide to gold and silver. You can check this out. I said I was going to bring some gold in. I got some gold I'm going to bring in that I got from them that I'll bring in tomorrow. But really just want to tell you that right now, in a very unsteady time, we are in the most unsteady time I think we've been in a long time. You can go to untamedgold.com. You can call 1-844-960-GOLD, GOLD. This is just the first step. This will be the first step in you protecting your assets with something that's been around for 2,000 years. So we're going to take a quick commercial break. When we come back, we're going to talk about Eric Coomer. And I'm going to run this show. I'm going to run this segment and I'm going to run it over and over and over again. I'm going to continue to run it. I'm going to break every one of their algorithms that say that people can't see it. So if you're seeing this for the second time or third time over the day, I finally just decided I'll just continue to run it for over and over and over again. It's time that we break the back of the devil. And so you need to know everything that is going on with Dominion voting systems. I'm going to go all the way back to 2004. I'm going to show you things, but I'm going to cover some stuff. And I finally just said, I've had enough. You want to slander me? I don't need the mainstream media. All I need is all of these giants out there, people who are just tired. And I'm going to show you, I'm going to give you all the receipts, right? I'm going to give you all the receipts of this guy named Eric Coomer. And you know what? You want to say that I lied? I didn't lie. He lied. And he's a liar. And we're going to get to the bottom of the fact of who he is as a person. I'm no longer going to sit on the sidelines. I'm not going to talk about him from a position of, oh yeah, he did this and he did that. No. I'm going to make it all about you, Eric Coomer. You and your lawyer, Kane. So if you go, if let's go to a commercial break. When we come back. Let's just start when we come back. We'll be right back. In every thread, in every stitch, Honor-Bound USA weaves the fabric of the American spirit. It's not just apparel, it's a testament to God, family, and country. At Honor-Bound USA, we're a family of patriots who put our faith, family, and America first. When you visit our website, you'll find a line of products that embody our commitment to pray, stand, speak, and act. As the official site for the Untamed podcast, all of our products proclaim speaking the truth with courage. We also have the powerful documentary from Professor David Clements, Let My People Go. Identify yourself as one of the few who are willing to stand for what they believe in. Join the Honor-Bound USA family today. Wear it as a badge of honor, commitment to the values that shape us, and a pledge to the bright future we will build together. Because when you're honor-bound, you're not just wearing a brand, you're embodying a lifestyle.
My first time here shooting at the shooting range.
How's it going? It's also my first time, and I'm really excited.
It's also my first time here, first time shooting a gun.
My day off of work, and they were like, hey, you want to shoot some guns? That was awesome. The revolver is crazy. I will definitely come again.
Yeah, it was awesome. Really cool experience.
100% bringing my friends here another time.
I like to come shoot because I get to spend time with my family.
Same for me. I love spending time with my family. It's something to do.
It's a lot of fun shooting.
When I first moved back into town, the first place I came was DCF Guns, and I signed up for a membership right away.
I got into shooting because of self-defense. I would encourage all women to be ready and to feel comfortable handling a handgun.
This was my first time ever shooting at DCF West. It felt amazing. I shot an AR-15 and it was amazing. It was powerful and I loved it.
I'm here today as a part of a group of women that support one another in continuing to practice and refine our knowledge.
Not only self-protection of ourselves, but protection of our loved ones as well.
I have fun and I get to meet with other ladies.
You should always be prepared to defend yourself.
And I love coming to DCF Guns West to shoot. I come with my family. It's a nice, clean, friendly range. Here I feel safe. I feel like the people to my left and my right are also really cognizant of their range etiquette. That's why I come to DCF Guns West.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter.
Gabe! Dude, Gabe, something's in the dumpster.
Whoa, what is that for?
Something's in the dumpster, man.
Well, let's use the burner. We don't want to wake the neighbors. Freeze! Stop resisting!
Stop resisting!
If you're looking for a less than lethal option for self-defense or keeping pests out of your dumpster, then check out Byrna at DCF Guns. Visit us at our 3 locations in Castle Rock or Colorado Springs, or visit us online at dcfguns.com.
Come join the DCF family today, where we keep the range hot and the deals hotter. Sorry, eating pretzels. You should never eat pretzels when you're on the air. Okay, so I've had enough. You know, when I've had enough, it's really bad. It's really bad when I've had enough. And I got another article written about me, and I'm like, okay, New York Times, AP, CNN, they write these articles, and they call me the bad guy, and they say, oh, Joe got, another $90,000 fine. And I'm like, okay. And then at first I get really angry about it, because then I get these guys that show up that say, reputation, we can fix it for you, and push it to the last page. I go, why? Why would I do that? Well, you don't fight liars by saying, let me hide the lies. You fight the lie. And so I'm going to do this every day. I'm going to write on it, and I'm going to put it out everywhere. And I've got this huge story that I've been working on for quite some time. And I had this board, and I was going through it, and I'm like, oh my gosh. So Eric Coomer was tied to that, and he was tied to this, and he was tied to that. So I'm going to break down these posts that I put up on X. And I'm going to start at the beginning, and we're going to go back to yesterday. Super important that we do this, because I'm just done. So can we do that? Let's go back to Derelict Coomer. Can you find that one, or do you want me to find it for you? Let me send it to you. Let me see if is that the one before it? No, hold on a second. Let me see. August 5th. No, that's not it. Here, this is the one you want first. Whoops. Let's go back here. Hold on a second. All right, let's pull that up. So let me just tell you what I did here. So I did it on X. I put it on all of them. Let's break it down for you. So I want you guys to understand something. If you go back and you check all the timelines, and I went through and I grabbed an enormous amount of data. And I was like, okay, this is true. So is this true? And this is true. So is this true? And you'd say, well, why did you go through that much trouble to walk back in time on Smartmatic and Dominion and Sequoia? And, you know, I had to draw some lines between like Chris York, who worked for Dominion, and a bunch of other stuff that I had and that I was able to collect. I'm putting it on the board and walking through it. And the part about this is this, and I'm going to get to that a little bit later on some of the other ones that I wrote, but I wrote Derek Coomer. I'm staring at a wall of information about this guy. Everything about this guy screams CIA. And that is when they have defamed me and been able to accomplish, that is why they have defamed me and had been able to accomplish the slander fest against me for the last 5 years. Let's start by CIA stooge Chuck Faddis flying out in December, I think it was November actually, 2020, and grilling me. I'm really happy that I ended up recording that interaction. I did. That liar went back and lied his ass off. Again, CIA was the first to show up and the first to lie about who he was affiliated with. I grew tired of Sam, Chuck, whatever he goes by now, Faddis. Coomer was dry heaving on the floor in 2005 and got a cold call to become the chief architect of Sequoia voting systems. He was most likely recruited. That would be a better catch than the guy who had nothing going for, who would be a better catch than the guy that had nothing going for him? He could not have passed a background check to work at McDonald's. Best person in the world to manipulate and wait till you see all the pieces. I've decided I'm going to just play it out for you all here. Because why not? In 2007, they were forced to sell because of serious improprieties committed. A PE firm bought them, and then Dominion Voting Systems bought them in 2010. Smartmatic owned them in the beginning. And if you're wondering if it's a Venezuelan company, well, they were. Ties of Eric Coomer to Venezuela are not made up, and neither are the crimes committed by the election issues in nearly every environment dating back to 2005 when Coomer started there. So you go to the one below that, the post below that, that is a part of the thread. And it says, here's the speaker of a webinar. Coomer says he's got a degree in nuclear physics. He didn't. It was nuclear engineering. So I had to make sure that I proved the fact that he's the one that gave him this information. He did. I have read the thesis many times, and I've applied all of the modeling to election fraud. And guess what? It fits perfectly. Now, there are some deviations in what could be done, but the reality of it is in order to do the things that you want to do in these elections, you would need someone with vast experience in algos. It fits perfectly. It's decay modeling. That will come up later for sure. I'm going to show you all here some interesting facts about Coomer from the election in Mongolia, the Philippines in 2013, the patents and how they apply to fraudulent and fake ballots, how Runbeck is a part of it, and how most of the people who are standing up for Dominion and Eric are not really part of it. They're just stupid people. The system favors the stupid and the corrupt. How they can pick and choose the elections to steal, and how it would only take just a very select few people to make it happen. Here's the best part. I'm going to use their own words and works to show you how they did it. So stay tuned. I'll have an article wrote for you in about 3 or 4 hours. I did write the article. I've been posting little bits and pieces. And this will be the start. I'm done being slandered. I'm done with the garbage on both sides of the aisle that have silenced the truth because they do not want to do the hard work. And then right below for that, it shows some of the things that I put up later, which is the R factor, the R squared, which is, you know, whether or not this is, what's the likelihood of this being accurate is 0.99. More to follow. The media does not slander work for this guy. It says the slander work for this guy. I will fight back myself. Okay. So that was the first one that I put up. And then I put up this one. And I put it up on all the socials, by the way, not just one. I don't want to favor one. But let me just tell you a little bit about this part. You cannot steal elections without someone like Eric Coomer. It takes math and deep understanding of complex algos. The only issue is modeling takes practice, and the multi-state environment to steal national election is much more complex. So stealing elections on a state-by-state basis is easy, actually. You only need to manipulate states of the process, meaning take primaries and rig them individually, then choose what elections you want to win, make sure that the weakest candidate gets through the primary. When the other gets in, create chaos and distraction, which will lead to glitches. We saw that with Kerry Lake. Let me tell you something else that happened here when I talk about manipulating states in the process, is that we saw, we're going to get to that. I'm going to read the rest of it. In the elections, which I've looked at randomly in places like Oregon, Washington, California, Nevada, and Colorado, is always the mail-in ballots that created the differential for loss. You can date back to 2006 in states like Washington that turned very quickly to enacting mail-in voting. They masked the impropriety by creating a void between the voter and the ballot counting room. No transparency and no accountability. You can check all my work, by the way, and there will be receipts and work that will attach to all this too. Again, we debate the ridiculous and allow it to stand, much more to the coincidences, and yet they say lack of evidence. They changed the goalpost on evidence and turned evidence into conjecture, i.e., you cannot find the gun and smoke from the gun does not prove anything. I want to remind you all the people in this community are convicted with just a story from the DA. No smoking gun, no gun, not even a victim in most cases. But point out the obvious stealing of your voice and the treason behind it, nothing to see here. The CIA is behind it. And the worst part about it, it's not the CIA director. It's just some group of deviant trash that are doing the bidding of those people you cannot see and you have never been able to see. Those are the people that are tied to people like George Soros. So let's skip over that for a minute, and then let's get to the other part, which is I'm now at the spell it out stage. Is that the one you have before, Austin? Is that the one you were talking about? Huh? Okay. So I said I'm now at the spell it out stage of Eric Coomer, the CIA stooge who is a part of a society of evil that you cannot easily quantify. I just need the info for the case related, and now, well, I'm going to make sure you all know. It matters very little what happens in the court in Denver. I will have my justice one way or another. Where's all the other stuff that I put up? I feel like I'm missing something. Somebody take something down? Did I get something taken down? Hold on a second. Just give me 1 second to make sure I got this right. Okay. So then I asked the question, and I'm asking this as a serious question. And this was addressed to Sidney Powell. Why did you settle? I would have walked over broken glass with barefoot for Sidney Powell. I would have done the same thing for Rudy Giuliani. Matter of fact, in a lot of cases, I did. I showed my gratitude to Rudy Giuliani on his birthday just because I thought that no one else would, and I was right. So I did. Because a lot of people want to sit around and say that they are thankful for people making sacrifices, and I did the opposite. I spoke with conviction, and I used common sense. But I had to ask the question of why Sidney Powell settled. I wanted to know what everyone else thought. I didn't feel like she would answer me. She didn't. At least not publicly. And I said this, you told me that we had the receipts, and now I am looking at much of it. It appears you actually did. Why did you settle? You had more information at your fingertips, much more. So why'd you step off the stage and leave me to hang? That's in essence what has happened. Now you got the Steve Bannons of the world, and you got all these guys that stand up on stage that are part of the op. And in large part, sometimes you have to play along with it. Sometimes Trump has to play along with it. Sometimes people, and they go after Susie Wiles. I don't know about Susie Wiles. Bad, good, I don't know. She's a mom. I got to believe that she wants her kids and grandkids to grow up in a different environment. None of them want anything to do with politics. So you'd have to have some pretty selfish motives to run away from doing the right thing. Do I think it's possible? Maybe. I'm more pragmatic, though. I look at the people that I know are absolutely either nuts or frauds. I can put them all in a little bit of thing, and I look at the little campaigns of running around saying, free Tina Peters, free Miles Guo, free. Always the same people that show up to those deals. You say, Joe, you anti-Bannon. No. I just can't unsee what I've seen. And, sooner or later, you have to do an assessment. And that assessment is who looks like a snake, who slithers like a snake, who acts like a snake, and who bites like a snake. Well, I'm going to tell you this. There's a lot of snakes. And most of it, the Julie Kellys of the world and the Dan Bonginos, they're manufactured. These are manufactured people. They couldn't hold a candle. They couldn't build anything of any value. They were put on a stage, propped up, given people that follow them. It's kind of like Lynn Wood, till Lynn Wood fell off a canopy, did whatever. I mean, just went crazy, and said that there's underground city underneath D.C. and President Trump is actually the president, and it's all just a ruse. I mean, he went nuts. And then I got to see here's what happened. Every time I got behind the curtain, and I would get involved in something, and I would see something, I would say something. I got involved in Lynn Wood's nonprofit because he said, hey, be on the board. I was like, okay. Joe, I got to settle this deal with Kyle Rittenhouse. I'm like, all right, I can do that. And I did. It took me 2 weeks. I settled it. But in the middle of that, I got to look at the finances, and I'm like, holy crap, I can't be a part of this organization. I said that. And I was like, yeah, I'm out. I'm out. Why? Because I'm not a Boy Scout. I didn't live my life being a Boy Scout, but I can tell you what I am. I'm ethical. I do things for the right reasons. And sometimes I piss people off as a result of that. And it doesn't mean that I can't see that there's some things that you have to tolerate. It's that when you have gross misconduct, I just don't want to be a part of it. If you want to do it, you're welcome to do it. Just don't ask me to come to the dance with you and to sit through it. I could never sit through watching women and children get raped or killed. I was built different. And as I sit back at what's happened with Eric Coomer, where everyone settles one by one by one, they settle. And then they say some of the stupidest things ever known to man is that there's no evidence, there's no evidence, there's no evidence. Well, I'm going to show you the evidence. I still don't know what happened to the thing I put up earlier. Yep, there it is. Okay. I put up this thing, said, let's start here. You have that? Put that up. I'm going to take you back to 2005. We're going to start there. I'm going to do a little jumping and then we're going to go talk about 2004. But if you look at this, I'm just going to show you that the reasoning behind, and what I said to Larry is, if you were doing financial crimes, you would look at the same person. Like if that same person showed up in 5,000 different transactions, then that's your guy. And this is how I know that there are analysts, there are people inside of the government that they have understanding of this. They knew about Eric Coomer long before Eric Coomer. They all knew. The left, the right, Pompeo, they all knew about Eric Coomer. Why? Because they created him. That's what I think. I think they created Eric Coomer. Why? Because who takes a drug addict that was facing a long prison sentence and makes him the chief architect of an election system that runs in 17 states and the District of Columbia and says, this will be our guy? Who thought that was a bright idea? Oh, and the system, the people behind that, they're the Venezuelan company that stole an election in 2004 in Venezuela. And the substructure all happens in the same place. By the way, if you go back to Clinton Curtis in 2004, testifying before Congress about the fact that they asked him to build a system, we're going to go through that as well. Probably not today, probably tomorrow. I'm going to continue to put stuff out there. I have a huge article that I wrote that I'll share with you as well. More of a white paper. I'm going to share this dissertation for Eric Coomer. I'm going to let you guys dissect it, use AI, do all sorts of stuff to get to the bottom of it, so you can prove what I'm saying to you. So I can show you that what's happening in Nevada and what's happening in Colorado, that this is real stuff. This is the reality. This is the evidence that they said we don't have, by a guy who is a Satanist, skinhead, drug addict who they just picked up dry heaving off the floor. So let's go read this. So let's start with the crimes of the century and how they were in on it. So here's the thing about Eric Coomer. The way you have to prove a set of crimes, the way that you prove a set of crimes is to see if there's a pattern. If you have people turn up missing or bodies discovered, there's always the idea that you look and see if there are any people that show up at every crime scene. If every time there's a problem and every person and the same person is there, it's more than likely that he is the one that is creating the problem. Okay? It's a simple analogy. Obviously, we're talking about elections. Eric Coomer is that guy. He was recruited, he said, by a cold call. It's important to understand the timeline. In early 2005, Eric was coming off of facing large jail time for multiple crimes related to a drug addiction. Turned out in March of 2005 is when Smartmatic bought Sequoia Voting Systems which had a significant presence in 17 states and the District of Columbia. Eric was hired nearly immediately and not just as any other employee. I want to point out that Coomer could not have passed a background check to work at McDonald's. I contend that Coomer was not recruited by a cold call at all. If you look at the timeline in his previous work experience, that would not check with his work history. He built websites. That was it. No experience in elections, and certainly no experience that would make him worthy of being the chief architect of Sequoia voting systems. Not over time, but immediately. That would be like recruiting a bum off the street to be the CEO of Apple. He was a junkie, barely saved by his own words from being in a long-term inmate who had recently no prospects of being a productive part of society. His wife left him because of a long-standing abuse. Yet in April of 2005, Coomer was the pick. Of course he was. The CIA spends all of its time in the space of academics looking for their recruits. Do not believe me? Read the book. Read any book of the insider knowledge of the CIA or talk to anyone vaguely familiar with the workings, and they will tell you as such. And Coomer had this dissertation, one that on the surface meant that he had intimate knowledge of how to fix the air conditioner, so to speak. PID controllers. In other words, he understood algorithms and modeling at a very complex level while also understanding coding and evolution of technology stacks. More importantly, no one else wanted this guy. He was by all accounts dead weight. So in walks the CIA. I believe that in walked the CIA. You can see in every case. You can see in the case in Denver. And the fact he had a sua sponte ruling by a judge who overruled a 20-year sitting judge. Stop that for a minute. This is not inside the Post. I'm taking a left-hand turn for a minute. It says, hey, if you want me to reconsider getting evidence and doing depositions beforehand, just go ahead and send that in. And told Coomer's lawyer to do that. So they did promptly. And before the ink was dry, they already approved it. And then there was the probable falsity. I find that Oltmann has a probable falsity, not based on any data that was collected or information that was presented. No, it was based on the fact that it probably didn't happen. Now, turns out, though, is that they found someone that was on that call. They had him fill out an affidavit. This is something that at the time of the fog of what was going on in 2021, I wasn't all that aware of. I mean, I was aware of it, but I wasn't aware of the significance until the paint dries, so you can see everything in front of you. And it certainly didn't make a whole lot of sense until I started collecting evidence that you're going to hear about in some of these deals. Everywhere you turn, the judiciary has stepped in the middle and created an illusion of no impropriety. An illusion. And every single time that we have looked at this, if we go back to COVID or if we even look at any of the other things that have been done across the country, it's always been the illusion of impropriety doesn't exist, of a lack of impropriety doesn't exist. And in reality, they're basically stealing the soul of the people that they decide at will that they can try and destroy. And the media becomes their beating stick. So let's talk about the CIA for a minute. Sim walks the CIA, aided by more likely by his brother and father's deep connections in the government. Their connections no doubt created the opportunity connected to Pentagon ops and General Dynamic government contracts. They had more than a few in the family connected and shared beliefs and ideologies. CIA takes a junkie off the floor, tells them that they have a job for him, cleans him up, shoves him in the big room with a computer and a title. They clean up a junkie skinhead with the knowledge to build a system that will be capable of stealing elections all over the world. How am I doing so far? Think this is a conspiracy theory? Well, let me go here for a minute. In 2006, there was a municipal election in Chicago, Illinois. It was a disaster. So I've had to spell out all this stuff, by the way. It was a disaster. To say that it was a fraudulent and questionable election would be an understatement. Guess who was in the room? Yep, you guessed it, Eric Coomer. Guess who else was in the room? About 25 Venezuelan nationals that were flown in from Venezuela for the election support, of which 3 of those nationals became whistleblowers in 2020. Of those 3, 1 was murdered in 2022. You still don't know the names of those individuals, but I think my math is correct. You will soon. Now, how am I doing? The next X post will go back to 2004. I think we should cover the Clinton Curtis testifying at Congress. You understand where it all started. which coincidentally enough is right in the middle of what most people consider one of the most free states of our nation, Florida. By the time that I'm done, you will know how Eric Coomer is at every crime scene. It is, after all, this is the organized crime family of treason. More to come. Look, if you want to come for me, I actually know what I'm talking about. Below this, by the way, just as a comparison that I put up before, it's the model for election manipulation. We analyze the physical quantities to election variables. It shows you how you could create a model based on the same modeling techniques and theories in Coomer's dissertation. It's identical. The difference is when you're talking about energy, you're talking about energy on one side, and you're talking about election votes. One's a thing. It's an item. So there are some differences between what you're actually trying to control on the outcome, but the formulas are the same. And see, CIA guys, people that are really, really bad, they're looking for people who have sophisticated understanding of algorithms. You know, that's why if you're really, really good at AI, you get what's called the LeBron James contract. In other words, you can make more money being an AI writer than LeBron James does a year. I mean, probably not more now. I mean, probably more now, even at his prime. That's all I'm going to put up for today. That's all I'm going to talk about today. I'm going to continue to play this over and over and over again so you can understand it. Let me ask some questions here, see if you have any questions here. I consider myself a very good judge of character, and I can blame Sidney Powell for anything she's accused of doing about election fraud or backing down. Can't blame. I hope you said can't blame. TD says, I already knew Coomer was a tool. Yeah. Yeah. I can't give Sidney Powell guilt either. I did ask her, and she had some good reasons. But with so many people out there that have done really bad things, and they're like, oh, you know, there's a control mechanism that's happening in place that have walked out there and they have slandered me on our side. The Javon Pulitzers, the Bannon telling people that, hey, make sure you cut them off and don't allow them on certain channels. The constant interference with, or being told that I did something wrong when Mike Lindell is the one that owes me $4 million. I don't owe him $4 million. And I'm the one that took his company public. And for people to lie about me and then build this fraternity and build this lie, the lies we're done. We're done. And I know everything about Eric Coomer's movie, the movie that David Clements put out. I knew when it was supposed to go out, who was supposed to be the one talking about it. And that was the same time that $160 million settlement came down against, or judgment came down against Rudy Giuliani. And this person tucked tail and ran the other way and said, oh, you have to take out all the stuff about them or I can't promote it. Because it wasn't about the truth. It was never about the truth. And took a movie that should have reached 300 million people and made it so it reached, I don't know, 5. He had the power. And with that power, he knew that judgment against Rudy Giuliani was going to come down. And instead, he decided that he was going to do what paper tigers do. And that was, he was going to just make sure he bailed at the last minute. And literally, it was going out at 10 a.m. and at 9 a.m. he called and tucked tail. And it's not my story to tell. And then the donations that came in for the movie from all of you never went to David Clements and he swallowed a $500,000 loss. True story. I tell you more, but I mean, it's not my story to tell either. That's what the grifter class does, is they get out there and they put it all on the line while people stand up for trash heaps they sued everyone. Coomer sued everyone around me for my words. Now, my words were truthful. His are not. He ran into a building, walked away 4 times, lied to the cops, told him to see my lawyer, smug little whatever, had his lawyer show up on the side of the road, negotiate with them. Any one of us would have gone to jail for it, for a felony. Negotiated him out of it. I'm going to get him out of it. On the side of the road, just like you're playing with chips, like dice. Here we go. Let's let Eric Coomer off. Bluest county, bluest state in the country, if you just go by voting records, finds me both credible and truthful in the Lindell trial. Do you think anyone wrote about it? No. See, the mainstream media, the Coomer media, the Charles Kane media, Charles Kane, the lawyer with Brad Clover and all those guys, these liars, this group of incestuous clowns. They're actually not that good of lawyers at all. But when you have the judges that are doing you favors, it becomes real easy to win, doesn't it? It has nothing to do with the facts when you keep the facts out. When you do things to keep people from getting able to look at the facts. That's Mike Lindell's case. I'm not trying to discourage you by what I'm telling you. I'm trying to tell you that I'm done. I'm going to do everything I can now to tell every part of it. I'm going to go back to 2004. I'm going to tell you about the Clinton Curtis stuff. I have all that information that I have on the board. 2005, 2008, when the company was sold, it was a forced sale. It was a forced sale. It wasn't a sale that, okay, that you have to, the Committee for Foreign Investment in the United States forced the sale. And if you don't want to know anything about this organization called CFIUS, super secret. Like all the information that they brought in, they knew all the bad stuff. And you know what I'm figuring out now as I'm gathering information everywhere? They already know this stuff. They know. They absolutely already know this stuff. They know about Eric Coomer. There's not just a burn bag on Eric Coomer. I promise you, there's a ton of stuff on Eric Coomer. 2008, 2010, changes job position between the transition of having to be sold because of improprieties, gross improprieties, with a guy named Eric Coomer at the helm that led to questionable elections and ties to the Venezuelan government inside of our election systems, directly infiltrated by a man who has the ability to build complex algorithms at the genesis of all this. Fast forward, 2010, bought by Dominion Voting Systems, a Canadian company, which also had very limited understanding of how to do elections. Little to no experience. I'm not kidding. Go check it out. And check out the history of Dominion Voting Systems and how they did municipal elections and other things. It's crazy. I'm gonna spell it out for you. And who was involved in that? And then where was their office? And who was on the same floor with them? Oh yeah, the Open Society with George Soros. And how about the shell corporations and small corporations that they had built up here with the Dominion Voting System, Dominion Voting? They put them in different places. They had the Canadian deal, and then they said they were U.S. based, but and I'm not talking about, I'm talking about what's questioned in Texas, Nevada. I mean, until they got into and they could, maneuver around and buy people for what could have been probably an ounce of silver. And then, by the way, let's go back to Smartmatic 2024. The founder of Smartmatic was arrested for bribery in the Philippines. Oh, let me just go to the Philippines now. Guess who else was in the Philippines in 2013 during their questionable elections? Oh, well, shit. None other Eric Coomer. But let's go to 2012 because that's even a better one. That's Mongolia. Guess who went into Mongolia and sold Mongolia their election systems? Any guess? Eric Coomer. And what can be described as an absolute disaster that almost pushed the entire country into a civil war. You think I'm wrong? They scrubbed articles from the internet. Who was involved in it? Yep, Eric Coomer. And the election flipped. So what they tried over there first, because that's what the CIA does, they run ops somewhere else and then they bring them to our front doorstep. Same with pandemic, same with everything else. And look, I don't know why mathematically I look at it, I put it on a board and I can say, okay, that's how they did it. And then the government didn't do it? They didn't know about it? How'd they not know? Oh, that's right, they did. Because I went to the State Department and I met with Pompeo's counsel and he gave me that look of, yeah, we already knew. They already knew. See, it's a brokered agreement, left, right. President Trump knew it was stolen. He actually didn't need me. But I was a good punching bag for 5 years. I'm done being a punching bag. Now let's move forward to Ukraine in 2014. The Maidan coup. The election flipping of all flips. It has led to a conflict that has killed millions of people between Russia and Ukraine. It became the backyard playground for some of the worst human beings known to man. When George Soros was expelled from Russia, where did he go? Ukraine. Hunter Biden, Joe Biden. You have Tony Bobulinski, who came out and said, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. And this is, I'm going to whistle blow. And here's some other people, and here's a story. Swept under the rug. 14. Oh, but I missed the most critical part. Where was the code now being developed? Oh, Kosovo. Serbia. Yeah. And how many of those people actually were vetted? Oh, damn it. I forgot. Yeah, none of them. And should we talk about some of the behavioral issues of Eric Coomer during that time? Because that's going to be a fun one too. See, I'm done playing. I'm done being a punching bag. Dominion voting systems in Serbia. They had their own data center built over there by Roaming Networks. Roaming Networks actually had an office and upstairs deal of it's basically a shell company that just sat there. Now defunct, by the way, went bankrupt, like everything else. Just so you know that if you go back in time and you look at, Sequoia voting systems, yeah, so they sold in 2010, 2014, they filed for bankruptcy. Just close out all that debt and get rid of all that information and just throw it away. They had China build them a data center with their money. This is the largest money laundering operation you're ever going to see. And they stole elections across the country and they took the voice of the American people state by state, election by election, community by community. And they don't feel bad about it. And they lie with impunity and they do everything they can to take what is not theirs. It was never theirs to take. And President Trump, if you see this and you have this conversation, I'm going to keep putting this out there. It's really simple. It has nothing to do with me. I had this homily on Sunday. It said, vanity. Set aside vanity, set aside everything for the purpose. What is your life's purpose? And in this homily, they said, pay attention to what your checkbook tells you is important to you and what your calendar says is important to you. Well, I don't get paid to do this show. I employ a bunch of people. I have 2 tech companies, a bunch of other stuff that I do. I work for free because I had to come back into my company after losing most of it because frankly, I had to be on the road, protecting and doing things to get people to stand up and vote for you. This is not something they don't know how to fix. It's calculated on whether or not, if they do fix this and they get rid of the machines and mail-in ballots, will the country swing so far in the direction of restoring order that it uncovers the crimes of tens of thousands of people, judges, I mean, it has the ability to do that. And I'm just one voice. There's so many other voices besides mine that are ethical voices. Dave Clemens is an ethical voice. Tori knows stuff. I'm still trying to figure out how she knows some of the stuff that she knows. She knows a lot of stuff. There are people that are good people. I still put Sidney Powell in that good person bucket. President Trump is the ultimate Julius Caesar. Brutus, I don't know who that person's going to be, but I know it's coming. And are we prepared for it? And sometimes you just have to rip the Band-Aid off and you have to let chips fall as they may. You have to let God sort it out. And we haven't gotten there yet. But I'm going to get out there and I'm going to talk about Eric Coomer. I'm going to talk about Charles Kane. That was fun, dived into that guy too. Brad Clover, I'm going to dive into that guy. I'm going to dive into all of them. I want you to know exactly who these people are. Exactly. And then we'll just kind of put it out there and say, listen, Tina Peters, they're negotiating right now. The left and the right negotiating about Tina Peters. When are we going to let her out? Is it a year? Should she do a full year? She was in there for 13 months, and then, we'll just get her out. And then the state will say, we don't have really an appetite to keep going anymore. Or the court will rule in the First Amendment and let her out, and then it'll get overturned on appeal. And now Judge Barrett is up because we said we should write, misconduct reports against the judge, but no, the lawyers didn't want to do that. And a 70-year-old woman sits in prison. So they're negotiating. This is the ugly part of everything. They negotiated. And Peter Tipton will do a great job of that. But in the meantime, everyone's still jockeying for position and power and prestige, and I know this person. I don't give a shit about any of that. I know now why I got in this fight. I know now. I figured it out. You know what it is? I hate evil. I hate bullies. I hate seeing people take something that's not theirs. I hate injustice. That's why. And you know what I love? I love people. I don't want to be around them, but I love them. I say that because it's hard for me to be around people. I'm always trying to figure out who's good, who's bad. It's exhausting. All right. So what do I want you to do? I want you to pray. I want you to stand. I want you to speak. I want you to act. I want you to pray first. Never, ever, ever become the very thing that you're fighting against. And the hardest thing for me is that I felt like I was going there. I felt like that yin up and down, up and down, up and down. But then I got right back into the word. So stay prayed up. Stand up. Stand. You cannot, if you need that little coin, I think they're like free. You just got to pay for the shipping or 99 cents or something. Just buy a coin. Put that coin in your pocket. Every time you feel like you're not supposed to say something, you reach in there, grab that coin. Right? Everyone should have at least one. I literally have one I just took it out of my pocket. I keep it in my pocket. Speak. Always speak the truth. Galatians 4:16, am I the enemy because I tell you the truth? And then act. John 3:16, the other John 3:16, not 1 John 3:16. 1 John 3:16. The other John 3:16. And that is that Jesus gave up his life for us. We should be willing to set down our lives for our brothers and sisters. It's an ugly world. It's an ugly world. But it's your world. And you get to decide how you go in it and go out of it. So let's pray us out. And you're the ambassadors of truth. So you got to be the ones to talk. I have 2 sets of Joe's coins. Yeah, thank you. That's good. Do you keep one in your pocket, though, new case? Do you keep one in your pocket? Make elections great again. Thank you for all you do. No, thank you for all that you do. And I do want to say this, because I said at the front, I want to tell you that I'm not the only one to make a sacrifice. I know that many of you that are listening have made sacrifices. You've lost family members. You've lost friendships. Some of you have been defamed. You've run for office. You've lost money. You've done all sorts of stuff. I don't want to take away from that. I am grateful for every bit that you did. Here's what I am upset about. You stopped. Not you, maybe not you, but people around you stopped. They retreated. They're like, Trump's in, we won. This was just us getting out the lawnmower to cut down the weeds. Like, we're just starting. I do have some battle axes. We still have a steady flow of battle axes, by the way. It was Chris. We have a steady flow of them. I think I might give a few of those away. I see Bahizzi, even Matt Bahizzi. Yeah, there you go. All right. Yeah, you have to get back in the fight. And President Trump is not going to be able to win this. You are. President Trump is going to be the catalyst. He keeps telling you, hey, fight. We're still fighting. But most of the things that they're trying to ingratiate right now around President Trump, it's an op. They're saying it's all about Trump. I mean, the Russiagate, that's a Trump deal. I mean, anything that involves around Trump, they're going to solve those problems. Well, there's bigger problems. And people like Matt DePerno and Stephanie Lambert and Dave Clements, he should get compensated for what happened to him. I mean, I go down the line, Joe Hoft and Jim Hoft and, people that really have done great things, that have sacrificed a ton, right? There's a lot of people that President Trump should turn to and say, all right, those are guys that did the right thing, self-funded, did their own thing. The first way you do it is get rid of mail-in ballots, and you hold people like Eric Coomer accountable. I've given up on the idea that anyone is going to ride in a white horse and say, okay, Joe, let me show it to you. I'm having to find stuff on my own, put it on a board and create I feel like I'm Inspector Gadget almost. So it says, you got to see this. Okay. Let me see if I can look at it. Yeah, click on that real quick. What is it? Oh, yeah. So this is you can put that up here. This is the complaints filed against Colorado Judge Matthew Barrett, who sentenced Tina Peters to 9 years in prison. Judge benefits from the crime. Barrett's 2022 retention election was run on the same Dominion systems Peters exposed as hackable and corrupt. His job literally depends on those systems working properly. Public transport transcripts show Barrett never disclosed this massive conflict of interest. While imprisoning the woman, he exposed flaws in the system that kept him employed. Think about it. Judge gets to keep his job because Dominion systems worked. Then he is sentenced to prison. The clerk who proved these same systems can be hacked undetected. Barrett admittedly he jailed Peters for her speech. She used her position as a pulpit to preach lies about our election system, the same system his paycheck depends on. Texas already rejected these Dominion systems as not suitable. Peters was right. None of them are suitable. By the way, you're going to see some more stuff that comes out on X and Facebook and everything else. And guess what else, by the way? I'm going to read the rest of it in a second. Stop. The ES&S, same subsystem. Smartmatic, same subsystem. They're all the same. They're all the same. All the same. The entire system infrastructure is based on the same stealing of elections. ES&S, Smartmatic, Hart Intercivic, Dominion. They're all the same. All the same. Clearbout, all the same. All of the same. It appears to be a judge protecting his own financial interests by silencing his critic. Textbook corruption that needs investigations. File complaints. Judicial conduct at jd.state.co.us. Here's the problem. Ready? Let me just tell you what the problem is, just so you understand the problem. Ready? Here's the problem. They're all in on it. The AG in Colorado is in on it. There's a case right now that should have Phil Weiser put in prison. He should be in prison he should be in shackles right now. Is he? No. You don't know why? Because the governor's in on it. The Secretary of State's in on it. And you think, Judge, this is made up. I sat in a room and I'm like, please go public. And the same reason that Tina Peters in jail, they're deathly afraid. Deathly afraid. That's where we are right now. All right, let's pray. Father God, thank you for everything. Thank you for the truth. Thank you how freeing it makes me feel that we can uncover the truth and get to the bottom of it. Thank you. Thank you for access to information. Thank you for the people that are in my life. Thank you for the podcast. Thank you for President Trump. Thank you for the other people inside of President Trump's cabinet that are doing great things. And yeah, I'm not that happy with the Cash Patels and the Dan Bonginos. And maybe there's a reason for it, but I can't see it. So Father, I just ask you that you can turn their hearts towards you, that they can do the right thing, not sit in these little fraternities and ops and do all the stuff that they do that frankly is disgusting, self-serving, and leaves the American people just at the front doorstep abandoned in the idea that we can get to a place of justice. There's so much stuff, Father, that I feel like we run up and we get things done and they just pour cold water on it. So Father, I just ask you that you can give us the stamina and the courage and the patience to be able to walk through this fire. I wish, Father, that we get to a place where we would have no need for violence and that people in our communities could be unselfishly served by those who truly want to serve their interests. And only you can turn their hearts that way. So I ask you, Father, that if that's possible, that you do that. And that people operate ethically and that more information comes out and that those people that have done these bad things to our country and to our people, that they will be held responsible. I ask these things, Father, humbly in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. All right, I guess I'll see you guys later. I do like praying at the very end. Sorry I missed yesterday. Yeah, talk about Sharona Bishop helped Dominion. Yeah, she did, didn't she? Yeah. That's what I said before when I said it's the hairdressers and the fanboys and, political ops. And there's a reason why these little group of people stay away from me and others flock to me, is that I just want truth. Here's what I want. I want peace. I want what left and the right, in the middle, they all want the same thing. Just stop stealing from us. Just give us ability to have opportunity and stop telling us that everything's about race or that you're not white or that, that somewhere along the line that it's the most crazy thing ever. Socialism works. It doesn't work. And right now, capitalism doesn't work because it's not capitalism. So do the right thing. All right. We're on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Pandora, iHeartRadio, TuneIn, and more. Go ahead and give us a 5-star review. Come back and visit with us. We're going to run this over and over and over again. So you're going to see this show live. We're going to do it over and over and over again. I'm just going to restart it, do it again, restart it. And in the morning, we're going to restart it, do it and restart it. Because frankly, that's the only way to break the algorithm, I think, right? All right. God bless you. We'll see you soon.